Okay, good morning, everyone. Today is February 22nd, 2021. This time of the year is always so interesting because it's like, okay, we've gotten through the New Year's resolution time, right? And we're just in the day-to-day stuff. And it's fascinating to look back because it's been a month and a half since New Year's, and I don't always fully believe in like New Year's resolutions, right? But I'm always setting goals and progressing and all those things. But um, it's fascinating to just take a moment and like look back on the last month and a half and to just take inventory for a moment and check in with yourself. Like, have you been in a space of like, oh gosh, I can't believe I haven't done any of my resolutions yet? Or like, are you in a space of yeah, like I'm taking consistent daily action steps or, semi-consistent action steps towards this other way of being, right? So and you may have a mixture of both of those things, but just kind of check in for a moment without any judgment. We're just observing here. um, and whatever you're observing, there may be something that comes up through your observation of, I need to work on improving this one little thing over here, or um, I need to stop doing something that I've been doing that is not helping me to accomplish those goals. So I'm just going to give you guys a few moments to just check in on your progress since this year began, and then we'll get started. Okay. I hope that was long enough, at least just to give you time and space, just to listen, just to check in with you and what path you've been on for the last month and a half. Um, but let's go ahead and do our daily check-in over this last week. I personally feel like it's been so much longer than a week since I've been with you guys. Um, I have had a lot of beautiful things change in my life in this last week. So I feel like I'm like a totally different person. You know how that happens when you like change and grow so much in just a short period of time. So I feel like I'm a totally new person and so much has changed, but I know it's only been like 7 days since our last call. So it's cool. But I'd love to check in with each one of you guys about let's go ahead and start off with a gratitude, just a quick gratitude. Anything will do, big, little, doesn't really matter. Current, present day, could have been something that happened in the past or something that you're grateful for that's coming. So start with gratitude and then let's move into accountability and let us know what you struggled with this week, what went well for you, and we'll go there. So, Anna, would you be okay starting?
All right, I'm still waking up. So you said gratitude and what I'm working on, right?
Yep, gratitude and then accountability.
Oh, I'm grateful that I was able to sleep last night.
Yay.
And accountability. Can't remember what I'm supposed to be accountable for. Sorry. I'm just having brain blocks this morning because I'm so tired.
Okay.
Can we move on?
Yeah, totally.
To Tasha.
Okay, It took a while to unmute. I'm like, I feel grateful. No, I was looking back in my notes since I've missed some classes. And I just saw a thing I'd written down where it said a higher vibration. And I feel like I actually feel that the last few weeks. So I'm grateful for that. And then I'm like, I've kind of just done my own thing when it comes to working on things. And so I've been working on the learning the different laws and everything. And I mentioned this in my other class, how I was able to like research that a little bit and everything. So I think that's made a difference for me in helping me see things.
Well, very cool. Very cool. You're learning a lot and applying things as needed. I love that, Tasha. So good.
So Chelsea.
Hi, just walked in my kitchen real quick. I'm really grateful. I went to my mom's last night to help put my dad to bed, and they were watching Grace Notes. I don't know if you guys have ever watched that, but it's on BYU TV, and they just interview different musical artists. And she backed it up and played David Archuleta was on there, and I like his stuff. Okay, I've never really like been obsessed with him like some people, but he was talking about kind of his journey from American Idol and then going on his mission, and how he realized that he needed to prioritize God. And he played his song My Little Prayer. I don't know if you've heard that, but he was talking about that he actually dreamed that song. He dreamed that he was talking with God, and he could hear the music, and he was just singing his prayer, and he woke up and he heard God tell him, write that down. And so he woke up and was able to record the whole thing in the middle of the night. Anyway, I've heard that song before and I love it, but like every single word that he said was just like something that I needed to hear last night. And so I was really grateful for that moment that I wasn't expecting, to just kind of reconnect, I guess. And that leads me into my other part. I know we talked on Thursday about writing down gratitude, and I was thinking about why I was trying to be curious about why it's so hard for me, and really like any sort of committed routine is really hard for me, which is weird. Like I keep commitments, but like I cannot get myself to just like spend time every day doing something that like I need to do, like pray, read the scriptures, like, I do them sporadically, but if for some reason it's really, really hard for me to like set a routine for that and to actually do it. And so I was just thinking about that this morning, and because I can feel like that was what I felt like last night, was that I needed to do that. I needed to put God first more. And the thought that came to me this morning was that I don't want to have one more thing to fail at. And that I was like, oh, that's really sad. So I'm going to think about that some more. And I don't know why that's such a big deal, but that's where I'm at today.
I think that's beautiful because I was getting ready for content for our call today. We are going to be diving into judgment today. So Chelsea, that's like perfect. I mean, every one of you guys has perfect scenarios that we can apply non-judgmental processes with, but I get that, right? I think all of us can at least relate to that and have compassion with that, but I really get that because I really struggle with like the day-to-day consistent routine, and like it's not really in alignment with my core like way of being. And so it pushes me when I'm required to do something every day, because I do feel like in the past I've felt like I failed all the time, you know. And Chelsea, I just want to speak to that real quick, that there are ways of connecting with God every day that don't feel like it's just a, you know, rigid routine that you have to check the box off with. So I'm just speaking hope to what your heart was speaking to you last night, that there's a path. It's just going to be, it's always going to be different than the path that others around you have taken. So back to a call that I think it was on our Thursday call with Tasha, we were identifying like the ways of receiving revelation, right? And Tasha was helping us understand there's this box in her mind of like what's okay, what she's been taught her whole life, and like that there's other ways of receiving revelation that are outside of that box. And same with connecting with God. So there's that. But okay, so for today, we are going to be diving into judgment. Whew, it's actually a big topic. And yeah, I'm going to do my absolute best to like keep this as simple as possible, because I want you guys to be able to chew this, swallow this, digest this at your own rate, not your own pace. But judgment is such a big, pervasive problem in all of our lives. I could speak to my own experience with judgment, but I don't know that that would serve you guys to your best. And so just know that I'm in the trenches with you. Like judgment is something that I have massively struggled with in my life. I was with some friends this weekend at a spiritual retreat, and I was explaining to them, just as we were going about our day-to-day experiences, I don't remember what was happening. Like, I think we were trying to make lunch one day, and I was making something unique and different. And I was just kind of excited about this idea of like making this new thing, this new creation. And I just caught myself like immediately judging myself. Like I was totally tearing apart this thing that I was creating for lunch. And but I caught myself in the middle of this judgment. And so I brought it up to the surface because we were doing spiritual work all weekend. And so it was a space to be able to have those conversations. And it was fascinating to like listen to the words that were coming up and out of my mouth, because I said, you know, I mean, I've known this, but I've never explained this to this friend. But I explained, like, I grew up in an extremely judgmental home. Like I was just with my parents yesterday, and I was reminded again of just those patterns of judgment that I was raised in. And it's very common when we're living world-focused lives to allow judgment to rule our worlds, to allow judgment to judge we judge ourselves, we judge other people, we judge situations, we judge things when things aren't going our way, we judge God. And the greatest thing about this, the most ironic thing is that we don't tell anybody that we're judging, because we all know that it's not the right thing to do, right? And yet we do it. When we're angry with people, we judge them. When we're angry with ourselves, we judge ourselves. When we don't accomplish the thing that we want to be accomplishing, or we feel like we're failing, like that's all judgment. And anyway, so I've had my fair share of judgment, and I still have to work through this on an ongoing daily basis. Like I said, I was just making lunch the other day, and all of a sudden I was in this like full-on self-judgment attack mode, just because I was making food, you know? And so judgment can come in any direction, from anywhere, from any situation. And where none of us are immune to it. And so if you have voices in your head, they're like, oh, I'm okay with judging. Probably not. I mean, unless you like are actively practicing learning how to be in a space of love and compassion with yourself, which that's what we're practicing on these calls. But I guarantee that we all have room and improvement for this judgment process. So, okay. So if you feel like you don't need this judgment work today, then you're welcome to go back to bed. But I'm assuming that if you guys are here, that we all need some practice and work around judgment. So this is what I was led to for today. So without further ado, like I said, I'm not going to go into like incredible detail about my story. I just know that like I've come out of the swampland of judgment, meaning like that's where I was formed. Like that was my lived experience for pretty much my whole life up until just recently, but when I realized how detrimental judging is. And so for the last couple of years, I've been really like, trying to like get the swampland smell off of me as I continually practice things. So, but all right, so let's talk about what judgment is. I know that we've all experienced it. We've all felt the pain and the sting of it. And if you feel like you have a different definition of judgment, then share this with us, because I think that's helpful for us to understand different perspectives of the same topic. But there is an author, her name is Gabrielle Bernstein, and she actually has written a book, and it's called The Judgment Detox. It's a really great book. I've read it, highly recommend it, but it's not required necessarily. But if you would like a really great book and resource about learning some other practices on how to shift and change your judgment cycles, then that's a really great book. So I was actually looking up some information from her website this morning to just help us get focused. And she has a very simple definition of what judgment is. And I really enjoy it because it keeps it simple so that we can understand it. But she says that judgment is really just one thing. Like judgment, all it does is it blocks us from love. Like that's it. That's her definition and the extent of it. So anytime that we judge ourselves, we literally are blocking ourselves off from love or compassion or whatever, grace or mercy. Like there's lots of words that we can plug in, but ultimately it's the power of love. And I know that you've all experienced the like love's presence within yourself and you feeling love for yourself. It may have been a long time since you felt that, but I know that you've all felt that to one degree or another. But anytime that we judge ourselves, we cut ourselves off from love. Anytime we judge other people, we don't block them from love, we block ourselves from love again. Anytime we judge a circumstance or a situation, we really do block ourselves from love. And so I was thinking about this morning. Sorry, I think I have a hair on my lip. I was thinking about this morning and thinking about if love is like the flow of water through a hose, there's water always available to where the hose is attached, assuming that there's always water, that the water hasn't dried up or anything like that, or the water hasn't been shut off or anything, but assuming that there's always a water source and this hose is plugged into the water source, that's great. But if you turn on your faucet and there's no water coming out of your hose, and you know that there's always water coming, like there's water available, you've turned on the thing, but there's no water coming out, like what's your next logical deduction as to what the problem is? Well, you look in your hose and there's usually some sort of a kink, right? And water cannot get through a hose if it's kinked. We all know this. And sometimes a hose has multiple kinks, right? Like if it's been sitting in a big old jumbled mess for a while, there may be like 3 or 4 or 12 kinks in it that you have to like laboriously like undo, and make sure it's all laid out straight so that so the water has enough pressure to get through the hose to come out on the other end. And I feel like the kinks in our hoses are very similar to how judgment shows up for each one of us. Think about it this way. So like back to my story about making lunch the other day, and I just caught myself in this immediate judgment space. So I was and this sounds funny, but it was like I was creating something. I was creating food so that we could enjoy it later as for our, you know, for our lunch experience. And so I was trying, like, as I was creating my lunch, I was like opening the faucet, right? Because like creation is a form of love. And so I was allowing water to flow through my hose. And really like nothing was coming out of the other side through this lunch creation process. And as soon as I recognized that I was judging, all of a sudden I'm like, oh. And I had to go in and I had to find a couple of different kinks in my hose. I had to help them come undone. And then as soon as I did that, like so much joy showed up, so much love showed up through me. And I didn't have to do any other work. Like it just came. So it was a really beautiful process. So, okay. Hope that those things make sense to you, but I want to spend most of our time today, like actually facilitating a space where you guys can get in and actually do the deep trenches work around judgment today. The other thing that I wanted to mention really quick is that even though we all judge but yeah, we don't want to admit that we judge because, you know, heaven forbid, I'm a good person. I don't judge at all. Judgment actually really gets in the way of us feeling happy. And I think that's what I was trying to say with like, it cuts us off from the flow of love. Happiness and love they hang out in the same spaces most of the time, but it really does. Think about my lunch creation experience, right? Like I was totally like attacking and tearing down this thing that I was creating. And it really did. It totally cut me off from feeling happy about what I was creating and enjoying this process and this experience. But I want you to bring to mind a moment, maybe it was just recently, or maybe just even this morning, right? Of like slow down your experiences and look for a moment when you were also judging yourself or judging somebody else about something you did or something that you didn't do. But go ahead and just kind of look at your life the last couple of days and find a moment where you notice that you were judging. And then as you find that moment, ask yourself, just ask yourself, how did it cut you off from happiness? Like, did you feel really happy in that moment that you were judging, or did you feel an immediate decrease in your happiness as you were judging? Okay. If you guys had more happiness because you were judging, then you are a unique creature. Most of us would say that we've had a decrease in our happiness as a result of judging. Let's see. Okay, so I have a couple more things that I want to share with you before we get into the work, but judgment actually has a really addictive energy cycle to it. And I just want to bring that up to help you guys to recognize that we all struggle with different types and levels and forms of addictions to one degree or another. And really addictions are things that, again, remove us from love's presence. Like as we turn our hearts to a space that is not God and his love, and we do that again and again and again, and we turn to that outside substance or even judgment, like an inner substance. That's where that's an addiction. That's the definition of addictions. But judgment as an addictive thing, it lowers our energy and it weakens us physically and mentally. And I think that's really important to know that when we judge, these are all the negative consequences of judging, right? And like we just do it subconsciously so often, but we don't ever stop and recognize there's about all these negative consequences of this pattern. And so I wanted to bring this up. I know it's painful, but to like pour a little lemon juice on our wounds just to help us to recognize like, oh, this is really, I don't like this. I want to change. Okay, so judgment lowers our energy and it weakens us physically and mentally. I've definitely experienced that. I don't know about you guys, but and then it makes us feel alone and it makes us feel cut off from inspiration and love. So that's what I was talking about with the kink and the hose. It holds us back from peace as well. Those are all sad things, right? Like all of us want more peace and we want more inspiration and we want to feel like we are with people and people have our backs and that God has our backs, right? And we want to have more energy and we want to feel more awake and strong and things like that. But judgment does the opposite. It removes all those things from us. So, okay. So what we're going to do to actually get in the trenches and do this work is I'm going to, I think just in the chat, I was going to like pull up a PowerPoint, but I didn't get to pulling up a PowerPoint. So I'm just going to type some questions in the chat. I'll start off with the first question and let you guys start journaling about that one. Give you a few minutes on journaling. And then I'm going to type in another chat or another question in the chat. So then you can have a couple more questions to journal about. And this is going to be just kind of a self-discovery process all around judgment. The most important thing as we're doing judgment work is actually to practice not judging any of the judgment that comes up. It sounds so counterintuitive, but we have to come from a space of just observing and just witnessing anything that shows up. Because then if we start judging the fact that we're judging, like that just creates the negative cycle even more. So, all right, so I'm going to come up with the first question that I'm going to have you guys start journaling and processing. I'll put on some music so that you guys can have some nice background music, and then I'll start in that space. I'll also come up with some more questions for you guys to journal about. Any questions so far? Okay, awesome. So the first question will be, who are you judging most of the time? Okay, so I put a couple questions in the chat so far. I'm going to go ahead and put on some music. You guys start with journaling those. I'll type up some more questions and keep adding them to the chat. Okay, go ahead and wrap up your journaling. Um, I think I'd like to give you guys some space to share whatever came up while you were journaling. You could keep it as private as you'd like to. You don't have to go into all the nitty-gritty details, but go ahead and share with us like what you'd like some support around from the group, as well as from me. Did you notice that you were judging yourself as you were writing about things that you judge, or the person that you judge, or the wounds, or did you notice that this was just a difficult process? Did you notice any resistance or blocks or anything come up that you'd love some support around? So, and you can share with us your experience to the extent that you feel comfortable with. But Tasha, I think we're going to start with you.
Well, for mine, there's an individual that came up.
Okay.
So everything seemed pretty easy until I hit number 4. Then I kind of was at a loss. Like, how can I honor the wound and bring love into it? Because I feel like there's been a lot of wounds, and I don't know how to like honor that and how to bring love into it.
Okay. Yeah, great. Can you identify at least one of those wounds?
I guess when I'm around them, I just don't feel like I'm enough, or anything I do is enough for them.
Okay. So the wound would sound like I'm just not enough.
Okay. So how do I bring love into that?
Great question. What would a loving voice tell you about this wound of I'm just never enough for this person, or I'm just never enough?
I don't know, because I feel like when I'm not around this person, I feel fine. Like, I feel like I'm enough. I feel like I can do all these things. I just feel like they don't feel like it when I come around, and so it's hard to be around it.
Okay, so
I don't know if it's more the love needs to be like directed to them.
it could be. But there's a reason that when you're around this one person that this wound shows up, because you said that when you're just around this one person that you feel like you're not enough. And so I'm glad that you do feel like you're enough in all these other areas of your life, but for whatever reason, this one person brings this old wound up and out.
Well, I feel like it's because this person likes to continually tell me every time we seem to be together. And so I don't feel like it's necessarily, well, I guess it still brings up old wounds, but it's like a constant thing that comes up. Like, it doesn't matter what you do or what you say or what you try, whatever. Like, it's like they're constantly telling you, right? And so it's just for me easier to just stay away from them.
Sure.
So I'm just like, how do I bring love into this?
Great question. That's a great question. So, avoidance of a problem is not the same as actually healing the problem. Okay. So when you are around this person, because sounds like they're still in your life enough that you're around them sometimes. And when they're constantly telling you, this whole list of things of why you're not enough, a couple of questions for you. Like, do you believe those things to be true? Like, do you take that on yourself?
Well, when I'm around them, yeah, I have a tendency to take that on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where the wound shows up for you, because if you really were fully healed on the inside and this person was still acting the same way with like, here's all the list of why you're not enough, but you were whole and complete on the inside, it really would like literally bounce off of you and you'd be like, oh, that's sad that you feel that way about me because I think I'm pretty stinking awesome, or some variation of that. But since these wounds are still there when this person is around, they still know how to like get in and hook in and trigger all of those wounds. And that's why you avoid it, because there's pain there. Okay. So honoring the wound, first of all, is about like literally sitting with it and saying, you know what, this is so painful to my spirit. This hurts a lot. I can't believe that like there's pain there. So like that's, to me, that's what honoring the wound is. Like, when you cut your finger, you don't just run around and pretend like it's not cut when you're bleeding. Like we sit and we stop what we're doing. If you're cutting vegetables and cut your finger, then you stop cutting vegetables so you can put a band-aid on and to get it cleaned out, right? That's what honoring the wound is. Like you need to stop and take time and space to allow the pain to be there. Because if the pain doesn't instruct you to put a band-aid on this wound and to allow it to heal, then it's going to continually, you're going to just keep shoving it down. And that's what we do because it's painful. But that pain disconnects us from love, first of all. So back to my other question. So that's going to be part of your homework, Tasha, is to like work on really holding space for yourself, that when I'm around this person, it's painful and it really hurts me. And maybe that's all you need to do this week, right? Just like recognize that this is a painful space for me. Okay. So then the second thing is, how do we bring love into it, right? So a couple of ways you can do this. You could work on like communing with God through prayer and having the spirit bring love back into this space. Or you could just simply imagine like the most loving person next to you, whoever that person is, and ask them like if they really fully are loving you in this moment and have only love, like what does their voice sound like in this painful space for you?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Does that help answer and clarify that fourth question? How can I honor my wound and bring love back into it?
Yes.
Good. Good.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and sharing all of that. Anna or Chelsea, we have about 5 minutes left. I'm happy to help support both of you, but I just wanted to honor time. Do either one of you guys feel like you would like to go next, or need to go next, or I don't know? Would love some support around what came up.
I think I'm just finding that I need to start honoring my own voice and opinion, and to heal the wounds.
Okay.
Because I find, when I have that hard or difficult person in my life, I get judgmental because I'm not getting my own back, I guess. And then it makes me harden my heart even more towards them. And so just need to start getting my own back.
Absolutely. That is, thank you, Anna. That's the process of self-betrayal. So what Anna's talking about is like, if this is you, my finger is you, and there's all these other people, maybe there's one person that's creating a lot of negativity in your world, right? Like imagine like a barking dog and like they're kind of if you, in this analogy, like if you kind of like shrink and like or run away from the barking dog, like that really doesn't honor you. It doesn't honor your boundaries. It doesn't honor the things that you need to say to this other person. And as we shrink or we run away, like that puts us into a state of fight or flight. And it sounds like it's more, I mean, I tend to go into like a flight, like I run away from the problems because I don't like conflict. And it sounds like, Anna, for you, like your braving process this week is to learn how to like hold your space, because what that does is even if this person's like coming at you, all of a sudden if you hold your space, and this takes a while to practice, right? But when you hold your space, all of a sudden they're like, whoa, like there's nothing for them to actually come after.
Yeah.
There's no food, for lack of better words. Like they have nothing, there's no positive reinforcement. So then they learn quickly, like, oh, well, that didn't work. So they find somebody else to attack. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good, Anna. That's such powerful awareness. Good. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Chelsea, do you feel like there's anything that came up for you that you'd live some support around?
I did have a lot of things come up. But my kids are all up and in this room, so I don't want to talk about it right now. I don't know. If we have another time we can talk about it.
Sure. Yep.
Or I can send you a message or something after we're done here.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's honor that. Yes, very good. Okay. So a few other things about judgment, and I want to just kind of wrap this up and while I'm talking about these couple of things, I want you guys to be thinking about what action steps you're going to be taking this week. And your action step could be simply that you're going to notice when you're judging. Like that would be honestly such a powerful action step. But maybe you're in a space where you're like, no, I want to do something about the judgment, right? Which is great too. So a couple of things that you could actually do rather than just notice the judgment is forgiveness. Forgiveness is such a powerful process to restore love back into wherever judgment showed up. And if you don't have a forgiveness practice, then ask me later and I can share some thoughts with you. But if you feel like you already have a process that helps you to tap into forgiveness, then activate that, right? Especially with yourself. I tend to be more mean with myself than with other people. And when I'm mean with other people in my own head, like it's usually because I'm being mean to myself first. So I have to practice a lot of forgiveness with myself first and foremost. So that's a really powerful antidote or antibiotic or whatever you want to call it to the judgment. And then the second thing that I really love recognizing when it comes to judgment is judgment always comes from a wounded version of us. And so if I can like consciously be working through and figuring out like what the wound is and why I feel so hurt, why I feel so justified in tearing myself down or, reacting however I reacted, that really helps me through my judgment. So awareness is always a part of that, but then going to that next level of kind of digging underneath the roots and like asking, why is this so painful to me? What's the wound here? What am I avoiding? Just getting curious. So it's a curiosity practice really, about what's going on the inside of me. And then I usually do try to bring in some level of forgiveness. to help restore me back to a space of love. So those are some really powerful, like concrete practices that you guys could work on this week. But I'd love to wrap up with just with allowing you guys to have some space to figure out what kind of an action step you'd like to focus on this week. And it's not a required like daily action step, but 1 week from today, how would you love to see your life improve? Next Monday morning, what would you love to tell us in terms of, you guys, I practiced forgiving all week long and I feel so different. I feel like my life is a lot better than it was even just 7 days ago. Or maybe it's, you guys, I was just simply aware of how often I judge myself, and it's no good. So I'm going to start working on that, whatever comes up for you. But I want you to check in on your action step. And we'll go from there. So whoever has their action step first, you can unmute yourself and share with us.
I think I'm really good at writing. Well, I write letters to the people that trigger me or that but I think maybe I need to start writing letters to myself when I find myself in a space of judgment and frustration. So
Okay.
I think that's what I'm going to work on.
I think that's awesome, Anna. Does that feel doable to you? I mean, because sometimes writing letters to ourselves or to other people can be a little time consuming, right? Which is totally fine if you feel like you have the time to do that and you want to carve out that time. That's beautiful, but I want it to also be actionable. So do you feel like you can keep that doable rather than like recognizing that every time that you judge yourself that you have to write yourself a letter, kind of a thing?
Oh, for sure. I'm not going to do it all the time, but I think it would be helpful to do it at least once this week.
Okay.
To see
Beautiful.
What's under there. Because
Yeah.
a lot of stuff comes up when you write it down or when you're writing.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to stretch you because I, as a mentor and a coach, like I have to be really cautious to like not let people take it too easy, but not get it too overwhelmed, right? And like you have to find this Goldilocks zone. And Anna, I really think that what would be better for you is to probably shoot for 2 or 3 times this week rather than just once.
Okay.
I think that will deepen your practice of learning about yourself this week.
Okay. That sounds good.
Cool. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Anna. Tasha or Chelsea, do you guys have action steps?
I just feel like I need to go through the number 4 question a little more deeply with this, I guess.
Very good. Very good. And are you going to do that through journaling, or how would you like? Awesome. Awesome. I think that's a powerful action step for you. Let me know if there's anything that comes up that feels sticky for you as you get into that a little bit deeper. Good. Awesome. Okay. Chelsea, what about you?
I need to do some deeper journaling about some of the things that came up, and follow a thread back a long ways. Some stuff that I thought I had dealt with, but apparently it's still sitting there. So I'm gonna try to go back and see what else comes up. But I think I'm gonna try to do that today after I get back from my mom's this afternoon. And then I don't know if you have time later today or another day this week that I could talk through all of this stuff with you. That would be awesome. If you have a minute.
Yep. We'll we'll message each other and find a time.
Okay, awesome.
Hey, you guys, good job. I know this stuff is so messy. Like, humans are messy, and life is messy, and our hearts are messy. Our hearts are so messy. We've all been so wounded from people and things and relationships and spaces and experiences that we've been through and trauma, right? Like, we have deep wounds and we are messy creatures, but there's always love is always available, hope is always available, faith is always something we can grow into. Healing is always present and ready to show up when we're willing to do the work. So I'm just really proud of you guys this morning. I'm always proud of you, but I think my heart is just really full. I don't, full transparency, I don't love getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but I do love being with you guys. I truly love being with you guys. I love watching you change. I love watching you transform. It brings me so much joy. So I'm sending you my love. I'm holding a space for each one of you that this week you can stay consistent with your action steps, that you can hold that space for yourself to do your own work and to show up next Monday and say, you guys, cool things happened this week because of what I did. Can't wait to hear what you guys have to say next week. And yeah, like I said, sending you all my love. Hope you guys have a wonderful the rest of your day, and we'll see you next Monday. Bye.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
See ya.
Bye.